That's all right. Do you remember last year? I certainly remember.
Yeah, at the end of the season, we see Ragnar alone on top of the cliff. Is that going to be symbolic of his journey going forward, that he is alone at the top now?
Travis was actually asked in the panel what he was thinking about. And what he was thinking about, he said, was what it meant to have power, and that most powerful people are either corrupt anyway or are corrupted with power. Ragnar's been on a journey from the beginning in which he didn't ever want to be an earl or a king. He just had other desires to travel, to be, he was curious about the world. And these desires were always frustrated by the powers that be. So by default, he had to take them on. So in his own mind, he's now struggling with this idea about what is power? What is it going to do to me? You know, what am I going to tell my son about what power is and what responsibility is and everything? So, as usual, and the wonderful thing is that we don't have a show which is about, oh, you have to get the throne, you know, whatever, because that's the only important thing. Getting the throne is not the important thing, it's what you do when you are king or what it's taken you to get there. So it is very, it sets up the season very well because a lot of the season is about the cost of power, the price you pay for getting to the top.
Sorry, I thought you were done. So are we going to have a time jump?
No, not in this season.
Do you have a specific approach toward the female characters on the show and how they interact with each other, because it's so different from what we see on a lot of other TV and movies?
Yeah, but I'm enormously proud of that. I did my PhD at Oxford in the short stories of Henry James, and Henry James wrote about he enjoyed writing about female characters more than male characters, and in some ways I suppose, you know, I do too. He said female characters are far more complex and far more interesting for a novelist, and I wasn't really conscious of making Lagertha almost unique as a leading female character in a TV show, but I think she is unique. I mean, she's, you know, a mother, a wife, and she kicks ass, you know, and she's a wonderful role model. Absolutely, but unfortunately, as a writer, I have to punish her again and again. So she's always losing everything, and I think that for women, that's often the price. You know, certainly for a powerful woman, that's the price they pay for achieving anything. You know, so she's. So every time you think she's actually achieved something, risen to the top, you think, oh, things are going to be easy now. They're not. They never are. You know, for women, I think then and now, and the Dark Ages and now, there are just more problems, more issues, more things to solve. You know, more complications to life. So I don't write the women differently, but I write them in the same way. So the women are as interesting as the men, and they don't just decorate the show, you know. But I do. For example, this show is a bit late to air in Ireland, but very few women are watching it in Ireland at the moment, and it's so sad because they don't realise that it's as much about the women characters as the male characters.
Obviously, you've had to take a lot of creative license with it, but being on History Channel, how important is it to be as historically accurate as possible?
It's very important. It's very important. The reality of the show is something I'm very proud of, and it's based on research, and it's based. Of course, it's the Dark Ages. We don't necessarily know. We know very little about the Vikings in the sense that they didn't write anything down, and what was written down about them was written by their enemies. But I don't take huge license. I never depart too much from what is known. I'm very proud of the fact that it's a show that is real, and it's real in the sense it's based on real people, on real things, but we shoot it in a real way. So all the actors, they fight, they row, they ride. There's no. If you look at Thor, for example, the film Thor, all the battles, all the fights are CGI. It's pathetic. We actually. Our guys actually fight.
They get dirty.
They get dirty and they get cut, and they.
How is Ragnarok being going through the fact that the best growing in England right now? Because they kind of left them with a bunch of Vikings. How is him being king going to? Are you going to go over that?
We go over there certainly in season 3, and one of the reasons is because Linus Roach as King Egbert is such a great character that you would not want to leave him. You want to go back and find out what he's up to and how the settlement works. And remember, this was right from the start of season 1. This is one of Ragnar's dreams. It was to start settlements elsewhere where there was good soil. He was a farmer, Ragnar. The Scandinavia is very poor soil, it was overpopulated at the time, not enough farming land. He knew that they had to expand, and that's one of the reasons they exploded out of Scandinavia in the 8th century. So what happens to this settlement is hugely important to Ragnar, and it's a huge part of the narrative of season 3. But I can't tell you what happens.
In this historical context, and I wonder where does the aesthetic for the seers and the more magical elements of the show come from? Because he does look very fantastic.
I'm on record as saying I don't like fantasy. And I prefer things to be based at least on some kind of reality. The seer is described in the sagas, in the Icelandic sagas, as someone who is sort of undead, who lives in the ground and comes up whenever anyone goes to visit them. There were seers in just, I think, most villages, most towns. Of course, we have no idea what they looked like. No one left a description of a seer. We know that there were seers. We have some of their pronouncements. It was a seer who told the god Odin that his son was going to be killed. So we had to imagine what a guy might have looked like who lives in the ground, is buried in the ground and complains about the wetness of the ground all the time, and has perhaps been around for hundreds of years. So we came up with a design. So for me that's not fantasy, because it's based on, and it's not fantasy either, the Vikings see the gods sometimes in different shapes, maybe as an animal or maybe because we've, again in the sagas, we know that they did see the gods. So I always give this example. If you were making a show about Jesus Christ, and you had a scene in the cave after his crucifixion, when he was dead and he got up again, is that fantasy? Well, to a Christian, it's the truth. So from a Christian point of view, it's not fancy. It's the truth. And so I'm doing things from a Viking point of view for the first time. And so these things are real to the Vikings.
Thank you, Michael.